Thank you. Hello, I'm Dave and this is Logan, out once again for a walk in the countryside. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're at the pretty village of Powerstock in Dorset. It's located about 5 miles northeast of Bridport and 12 miles west of Dorchester. And we're going to be walking a roughly 6.5 mile circular route. We'll have a look in the village and then head east to Powerstock Common. We'll then head south up to Eggardon Hill, where there's a hill fort to explore. We'll then go down to North Eggardon Farm, then back to Powerstock, passing by the site of a Norman castle. And there'll be lots of interesting things to see along the way. Now I'm filming at the end of July. It is a glorious sunny morning, blue sky, hardly a cloud up there. Should be perfect conditions for walking. Do come along with us. Well, I've parked my car in the centre of Powerstock and we'll start the walk with a little wander through the village, and what better place to begin than the church, which is just behind me here. And it's the Church of St Mary. It dates from the 12th century when there was a nave, chancel and west tower. The aisles were added to the nave and the west tower altered in the 14th century. The tower was then further enlarged in the 15th century. There was a major restoration between 1854 and 1859 when the chancel was completely rebuilt apart from the chancel arch, along with the north aisle and arcade. The south aisle and porch are more modern. I think it's got 6 bells. Now this is an interesting thing to look at just very close to the porch outside. And well, it looks like a slab on a couple of legs, but I believe that it might be a 13th century dole table used for handing out bread to the poor. At least I think that's what it is. Okay, well, we'll have a little peep inside. Just through the door on the left, there's the font. I believe that dates from the 13th century, and I was reading that it was found in the churchyard in the 1960s. And there's a splendid bell next to it. I love this blue stained glass window just by the side here, and that's just looking to the tower. It's certainly a church with tremendous amount of stained glass windows, that's for sure. And just on the side of the nave there, looks like there's a painting on a bit of wood between the 2 windows there. Looks like it's a depiction of Adam and Eve by the looks of things. And a quite splendid pulpit with beautiful carvings around the side. There's the organ just on the side in one of the aisles there, and there's some beautiful artwork up above the arches, sort of painted, looks like holly leaves and other leaves from deciduous trees. And then through into the chancel, the arch looks quite Norman, doesn't it, with that pattern there. And then into the chancel itself, and wow, that's a superb stained glass window above the altar. And there's also some other very impressive windows either side. What a beautiful church. Well, Powerstock was rated amongst the 20 most beautiful villages in the United Kingdom in a survey conducted in 2020 by a major travel magazine. It was recorded as Powerstock in the Domesday Book. Old English stock means farmstead or dwelling place. The power bit, well, folk aren't 100% sure. It was actually called Powerstock originally, possibly after Hugo Le Poer, who owned the manor in the early Middle Ages. But in 1857, when the railway line and station was built to the south of the village, the name was changed from Powerstock to Powerstock because the railway company wanted to avoid any connection with poor rolling stock. The station was then actually renamed, I think, in 1860, but both names for the village were used up until 1956, when Dorset Council officially changed the name to Powerstock. Now, quite close to the church is this, well, it looks like a bit of wall, but in fact I think it's overgrown, because if you look at a 1903 map, there was a drinking trough here, and I'm pretty sure that if you cut back those wild roses you could see a trough behind there. Wow, a quite beautiful house with the wisteria outside and that very typical sort of yellowish brick colour that's prevalent in this area of Dorset. Another splendid building, the old vicarage, which I was reading was rebuilt in 1843 after a major fire. Now, I believe this quite magnificent building here was once a school. It certainly shows on a 1903 map. It looks quite church-like, doesn't it? Beautiful. And this is the current village school, Powerstock Primary School, and it looks like a church as well, built in 1848 by the vicar, and in 1876 the body of a medieval chapel at West Milton to the west of here was dismantled and re-erected here as an extension to the school. I believe that only the west tower was left at West Milton that's still there today. And then next to the school is the village hall, a sort of wooden building known as the Hut when it was bought just after the First World War, and it had been used as army accommodation originally. The Three Horseshoes pub in Powerstock had existed as far back as the 17th century, and it was once called the Farrier's Arms, but it's been burnt down at least twice in its history. The last time was in 1906 when of course it was rebuilt shortly after. Of course, the worshipful company of Farrier's coat of arms has got three horseshoes. That dates back to 1356. It was usually a sign that there was a farrier or blacksmith very nearby, as was the case in Powerstock. But why three and not four or just one horseshoe? Well, the story goes that King Charles I introduced a tax on every fourth horseshoe. Of course, all horses need four shoes, so innkeepers decided to make a gesture to the king by naming pubs the Three Horseshoes. I'm not sure if that's a true story, but it's a good one, isn't it? Okay, well, we're now going to leave Powerstock and head out into the countryside, initially going eastwards. Well, on this first section of the walk as we're heading eastwards, we're going to stick to a very quiet country road that's got a few shaded bits in it as well. And we're looking out for a farm. I think it's called Whetley Farm. We're just crossing over Whetley Bridge, which goes over the old railway line that was run by the Great Western Railway. It was a branch line from Bridport up to Maiden Newton, where it joined the Yeovil to Weymouth line. The line opened in 1857 but closed in 1975. Of course, Powerstock actually had a station to the south of here. We might get close to it later on, so I'll tell you a bit more about it then. Well, this is Whetley Orchard, just before Whetley Farm. At this point we say goodbye to the little road that we've been following, and we still continue to go eastwards towards Powerstock Common, but very much into the countryside now. Looks like we go through something called the Bloody Gate. I see there are some cows in the field, but they are on the other side, so we should be okay, fingers crossed. Well, we pass by the cows okay, just as well, because there are some youngsters in there. But from here we get our first sighting of Eggardon Hill, the northern side, and that's where we'll be eventually heading later on in the walk. Well, we've now entered the Powerstock Nature Reserve, and there was a sign that asked us to keep dogs on leads. Now, the reserve includes part of a Norman Royal Hunting Lodge and deer park. It covers something like 112 hectares and was designated part of the Kincombe Nature Reserve by Natural England in 2001. Little pit stop, our first one of the day, to take in the views. So this is looking back over to the west where we've come from, and this meadow that's just been left to have wildflowers. And there's Eggardon Hill, which will eventually sort of veer round and start a climb, but we've got to go through some woodland now, which will give us some shade, which is lovely because it's beginning to get quite warm now. Whew, a little uphill bit, the first of many today I suspect, but it is so peaceful in this little wooded section, and it has its own little atmosphere, quite a lot of ferns in here. Well, we're now at the top end of Powerstock Common. The woods that we came through were quite enchanting. It looked as though it might get a bit muddy at times, so probably not a good route to do in the winter months. It looks like we're on the side of a ridge. And from here, the views really are quite stunning. A little update on the route. We're now at a place called Barrowland Park, and well, we're going to head to that farm in the distance there, Barrowland Farm, and then we'll start heading southwards towards Eggardon Hill. Another quick pit stop for a view. So this is looking back over Barrowland Park, which we've just come through and past the Barrowland Farm. As I say, from here we're heading south, and we need to look out for a little road which we'll pick up just before Eggardon Hill. I tell you, the views really are coming into their own now. So we've been continuing southwards, followed a little road. We've come off that now. We're just about to approach Eggardon Hill. Now I know we've already been here before in a previous walk when we did our walk at Askerswell, but in that video we approached the hill from the south. Today we're going to be approaching it from the north. But before we do, let me just show you this view. This is looking over to the west. And it's a glorious day now. And so there's the Eggardon Hill on the left, which we're just about to explore. And here we are at Eggardon Hill. Now I went into the history of it in quite detail the last time we came here, so I'll keep things brief. Incidentally, I see there's a new sign up here now that says dogs have to be on leads at all times. But basically here at the hill there's an Iron Age Hillfort built between 500 BC to 300 BC. The whole area covers about 21 hectares. It's got 3 ramparts and a couple of ditches with additional outer banks to the north, west and east. The ditches and counterscarp banks provide additional protection to the 2 entrances in the northwest and the southeast. I think there's also some additional banking to the southwest as well. There are a couple of bowl barrows from the Middle Bronze Age inside, and also 3 more bowl barrows and a disc barrow outside. It's pretty high up here as well, something like 827 foot above sea level. And the name Eggardon, well, it becomes sort of Eggardon and then Eggardon. Basically means hill belonging to Eoher. So the southern part is owned by the National Trust and the northern part is privately owned. Now the area around here is also well known for smuggling, and in particular a chap called Isaac Gulliver, who was the leader of a gang of smugglers up here in the 18th century. It was a pretty big gang, and they basically controlled the coast from Lymington in the New Forest all the way to, well, Torbay in Devon. The gang had something like 15 sailing vessels, and Isaac was known as the king of the Dorset smugglers. He actually retired from smuggling and ended up leading a very respectable life, and died and is buried at Wimborne. But he owned North Eggardon Farm, which we'll be passing shortly down to the south. And back in the late 18th century, Gulliver planted some trees up here at the top of the hill as an aid to navigation for his smuggling ships out at sea. The customs men soon chopped them down though. Let's go for a little walk round the fort. And of course, the views from up here are quite breathtaking. We can see the sea in the very far distance, and down below there's North Eggardon Farm, and then just panning across the little village of Punnell, just below that ridge. Of course, we've done a walk there, and then this is panning over to the southeast. Beautiful, isn't it? Well, we've come off Eggardon Hill, still continuing southwards, and then when we get to North Eggardon Farm, we change direction and head westwards. A little update on the route. So we're heading westwards on a little road, basically heading back to Powerstock, but from time to time I keep stopping and looking through gaps in the hedge and just taking in some of the views. I mean, this really is your typical Dorset rolling countryside. Very rich pasture, a good area for dairy cattle in particular. Oh wow, look at this. Now right at the beginning of the walk, you remember when we crossed over Whetley Bridge, we went over the old railway line. Well, coming back towards Powerstock, this is what remains of the platform at Powerstock station. And well, the house, the station house is now private, so we can't get any nearer. But this platform here, it was a single platform on the up or northwest side, and the cottage was made of brick. The idea was that it could be converted to a cottage if the line failed. Of course, now it is a private house. And the line here, it also had a small goods yard at the station. But lovely that the platform's still here. Oh look, just by the old railway line, someone's put up a wooden sign, Maiden Newton to Bridport, 1857 to 1975. Oh, an opportunity for a dog dip right up to chest height. I think this is, it's either the Mangerton or Mangerton River, or certainly one of the forks of it to the east. There's another fork that comes from the north. The source isn't too far away from here, and the whole river is about 8 miles long. And it joins the River Asker north of Bridport, which in turn joins the River Brit on the southern side of Bridport, which in turn then flows out to sea at West Bay. I think you're enjoying that, fella. Now at this point of the route, about half a mile away from Powerstock, and the footpath takes me north past a hill fort. Now I have noticed on the map that there is another pub not too far over to the west. So where are we? 1:20. Should we see if we can check that one out first, purely for research purposes, and we might be able to fit in the Three Horseshoes at the end as well. Well, I'm so glad I've done this little detour. It's a tiny little place called Nettlecombe. There's some gorgeous houses here, roses up the wall. There's one with a date of 1698 outside the door. Aha, now this is what we were looking for. The Marquis of Lorne. Now it's got origins to the 16th century according to their website. British listed buildings and Historic England indicate that the actual building dates to the early 19th century. It just shows as a beer house on a 1903 map, but apparently it's won a fair few awards over the years. So who was the Marquis of Lorne? Well, I tried to do a bit of research, but apparently the Marquis of Lorne is the courtesy title for the Duke of Argyll's eldest son and heir, and the family seat is at Inverary Castle in the county of Argyll in Scotland. So what the connection with the area around here in Dorset is, well, I just don't know. Anyway, let's pop inside, just for research purposes. Well folks, I tell you, this has come at just the perfect time in the walk. And I thought I'd test out their Dorset Gold. Ooh, thumbs up from me. Now they haven't got Piper's Crisp, but they've got something called Kettle slightly salted, so we're here. Yeah, passes the test. Cheers. Well, I certainly feel fortified by that pint. Okay, we're on the homeward leg now. Powerstock, well, you can just see the church behind me over my shoulder. Where are we? It's 10 to 2, and I think the Three Horseshoes closes at 2:30, so yeah, we should make it, shouldn't we? Whew. Well, folks, we made it back to the Three Horseshoes at Powerstock. I think it was well worth the little detour to Nettlecombe. It was such a pretty village, full of quite delightful cottages and some very beautiful houses. Now, by doing that detour, it meant that we didn't pass by Castle Hill. I think I said there was a fort there, but in fact there was a castle in years gone by. I'll tell you a little bit about it anyway. It's the site of a hunting lodge or a royal palace of King Athelstan, king of the Anglo-Saxons between 924 and 927. And he was the first king of England, grandson of King Alfred, I believe. But there was a motte and bailey castle built there in the late 11th century, early 12th century. The outer enclosure may be of an earlier date. The motte is oval-shaped, and there's a sort of semicircular ditch around it. To the southeast there's an inner bailey outlined by a bank, and there's a larger outer bailey to the west, but the whole outer enclosure is about 9 acres, and it would have been used as a hunting lodge by King John. But as I said, even if we'd gone by it, I don't think we can actually explore into the site itself. Anyway, we've come to the end of our walk. Logan's snoozing in the shade. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do give us a thumbs up and a like, and do leave a comment, and do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. So until we meet again, thanks for watching, and cheerio. Oh, Dorset Gold number 2. Now, again, they've not got pipers, but they have got burps, which is Logan's second favourites. Logan, you going to have one of these?